My name is Tim Coon. I'm the city manager for the city of Meriden, and I'm here today with the director of finance, Kevin McNabola, on my left, and our city assessor, Melinda Fonda, on my right. And we're here to talk today about answer some questions that we've run across concerning the grand list and the revaluation process. So we've got a series of questions that we're going to discuss and hopefully answer some of those as we go forward. So what is the first question I think that we have in front of us is what is the city's new mill rate? Well, let me talk about things in a generic, larger discussion regarding what mill rates are, etc. One thing to remember is what drives the mill rate in a community is the budget. And what makes up a budget is the goods and services that the citizens are asking the municipality to provide. It's not the other way around. A mill rate does not determine what the budget is. The budget determines what the mill rate is. And then you have to look at, and this is where you get to the grand list and the revaluation process underneath that, but I'm going to talk just about the grand list first. The grand list is the ability of the community to support, it's the list of all the properties in the community, the value of all those properties. And the determination of what that value is factors into the mill rate that is required to fund the budget as a whole. So I just want to be clear that that is in general how it works. It's not that the mill rate drives the budget drives the mill rate. So right now we're going through, City Council is going through the development of a budget to provide the services that the council feels the community needs. And once that is determined, then the mill rate is determined in conjunction with the grand list. So let's get to the actual question of what is the city's new mill rate, and I'm going to ask Kevin to provide a little bit of discussion of where that looks like as of today, March 30th, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tim. So the city's mill rate for the past 3 years has been steady at 40.86 mils. Based on the recent revaluation that was just completed, the city saw just under 26% growth in the overall grand list, which will decrease the mill rate for the coming year to 32.88 mils based on the current projected budget where we are today. There's still time between now and May 5th for the budget to change. City Council hasn't fully deliberated yet on the budget, but as of today, the new mill rate for the city would be 32.88 mils, which is a decrease of right around 8 mils for the average.
How much did the grand list increase this year for both real estate and motor vehicles? Well, every year when the grand list is prepared, the assessor sends out the letter enumerating what that has occurred. That's what has occurred in terms of the increase. Associated with that is how did the personal property of the grand list fare? So I'm going to ask either Kevin or Melinda to answer that particular question.
Okay, so with respect to the first question, the grand list for the current year on real estate grew just right around 28%. On the personal property side, we did see a slight decrease of 0.7% on personal property. And there is also an increase in the motor vehicle of 28% for the coming year, which is really consistent with other communities that I've looked at that have also experienced revaluation this year. It's pretty consistent across the board, both on the real estate and the motor vehicle.
So, personal property, how did that fare?
Personal property overall was down 0.7%.
And why?
Pretty flat, but I'll
That's part the decrease is primarily due to COVID-19 and the businesses not being able to purchase new equipment. We see that the products out there are backordered everywhere, and also new businesses coming into town at that point. COVID-19, we're seeing that effect this year. Hopefully we'll see a change for next.
And is this more of an increase than previous years in terms of real estate and motor vehicles?
Yes, and that's specifically because of the revaluation on the real estate side. And the motor vehicle values have had a tremendous increase because of the effects of COVID, and the limited supply of new vehicles has pushed up the value of used vehicles.
And what we're really confronted with across the country, is not just in Meriden, is that the very unique circumstances associated, frankly, with COVID. The real increase in the real estate market is a number of factors, one of which is a very principal factor is COVID, but it's also demographic, societal related, income related. There is definitely a desire in the Connecticut real estate market for for real estate, for places for people to live. So as a result of that, the increase in real estate has been significant. So they all came together, and it's really really obvious in the motor vehicle component, because who would think that the inability of China to provide chips, computer chips, to the United States would have an effect on the used car market here in Meriden, but it absolutely does. So the value of these property items has increased significantly. So yes, it is more of an increase than previous years. We haven't had a pandemic in over 100 years, a worldwide pandemic. So that has increased. All right, so the big question that I think we need to talk about is, what does the increase in our real estate and motor vehicle taxable properties mean for your taxes? Who wants to handle that one? Kevin?
Yeah, so for the average taxpayer with a single family home in the city of Meriden, the value of increase for the coming year of your property, the demarcation line for break even is right around 25%. So if you have a single family home in Meriden that's valued over 25%, you can expect to see a slight increase in your taxes depending how far that increase is over the 25% demarcation line. If you have a value of your home increased to 23% or 24%, you're going to see a slight decrease in your taxes for the coming year. Just to give you an example, I did present to the City Council the other night what that might look like. So the average home here in the City of Meriden, single family home, is valued at $175,000. The assessed value of that property is $122,500. The increase that you see in your home, we'll say 31%. We'll say that your single family home increased 31%. So the value of your home goes from $175,000 to $229,250. The assessed value goes from $122,500 up to $160,475. That increase in 31% would increase your tax bill for the coming year by 5.42%, or a total for the year of $271 at 31% increase in value. Anything below the 25, as I indicated earlier, you'll see a slight decrease depending on what type of home you have, the location of your home throughout the city of Meriden, what type of condition your single family home is, whether it's poor, whether it's rated poor, good, or fair. There's different rating systems within single family homes.
The key takeaway is that as an assessed value, if the assessed value goes up, as Kevin said earlier, the mill rates go down. And an attempt to they find an equilibrium. So the value of your property does not necessarily mean your taxes will increase. Some properties will decrease, some properties will increase because the value of that property has increased. So please, it's not when you look at the assessment from the city based on your property, it's not that the same mill rate is going to apply to that property. There will be a reduced mill rate to basically correct for that increase in value.
Yeah, and also on the motor vehicle side, the average motor vehicle in the city of Meriden currently pays around just under $400 in taxes per year for a motor vehicle. There is proposed legislation out there right now, which really looks pretty favorable, that will be passed. This was Governor Lamont's proposal to cap the mill rate for motor vehicles at 29 mils. So the difference between the 40.86, what you would currently pay at just under $400, and the 29 mils, you'll see roughly about $116 savings in your motor vehicle tax bill for the coming year for the average valued motor vehicle in the city.
All right, so what does an assessment of my property mean for me? An assessment is a determination of the value of your property. And that assessment associated with the mills, the mill rate that the city sets establishes what the tax would be for that particular property. How often does the revaluation process occur? Melinda?
The revaluation process occurs every 5 years with a physical inspection required every 10 years. In 2021, Meriden was required to do a physical inspection of all the properties here in Meriden, and we completed that, and the valuations you have now are reflective of those inspections.
And this is a state statute, a state requirement applicable to every community in the state of Connecticut. All right, so how does the revaluation and assessment benefit the city of Meriden? Well, that's overall the reason why it benefits the city of Meriden is because we get accurate data. Things change over the course of time. Things either gain less value or gain greater value depending upon the changes that occur. And having good data, understand what is available or what is present in the city allows for much better decision making on the part of council, staff, and the community as a whole. If we don't know what's here, how can we plan accordingly? And so that's a bigger picture as to how it benefits the revaluation and assessment process, benefits the city of Meriden. Let me ask either Melinda or Kevin if you have anything else to add on that.
I think it shows our economic growth, which would allow us to attract some new businesses and new companies to town that would want to invest here.
Kevin, do you have any knowledge of how Meriden has been growing economically in our grand list in comparison to other communities?
Yeah, so the city of Meriden over the past 2 years prior to this revaluation year has grown roughly right around 1% of grand list growth, which is pretty consistent with most of the cities and towns in our surrounding jurisdiction. I will say that the revaluation for this year too is, when people get their values and they see that their value of their home went up 25%, they can't believe it. But the reality is that when you look at all the other cities that are comparable to Meriden throughout the state of Connecticut, such as New Britain, Bristol, East Hartford, Manchester, we're seeing a consistent increase in the values based on other cities that have gone through revaluation as well, that the real estate has gone up roughly 24 to 26%, all in the same range, and the motor vehicles have gone up anywhere from 24 to 29%, which is exactly where the city of Meriden is. So it is a revaluation is a snapshot in time of what your property is valued at, and to Tim's point earlier, he alluded to it earlier, I think a large portion of what we're seeing is the increase on the value of real estate properties is driven by demand. It's an economic formula. I mean, we have a lot of people that migrated out of New York City and other surrounding cities throughout Connecticut to come into Connecticut to buy homes. A lot of New York people. I've seen it firsthand in the town that I live in, and I've seen it in other cities, having talked to other finance directors and mayors throughout other cities. So it is a demand derivative that we're looking at there.
I think some of the things to look at in the market are, there's a lot of people working from home now, so they need that bigger house. And instead of having 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, they may need 3 or 4, or maybe have that room that off from the family, that bonus room where they can conduct business in a private setting.
What can I do if there was a factual error on my field card?
So if you have a factual error on your field card, for instance, we have it listed as 3 bathrooms and you only have 2, or anything like that, contact the assessor's office. We'll do an inspection of the property. We'll walk through the entire parcel, check our data against what is physically on the property, and make those corrections. We want the best data, and that has been our goal since starting this revaluation is cleaning up and making sure everything accurately reflects what the property has. But we can't do that without an inspection of the property.
And we're just about to wrap up here, and I just want to make a few comments in conclusion and offer Kevin and Melinda a chance to add some other important points for the community to recognize. So first of all, let me just say that in regards to the revaluation and the assessment of your property, there are 3 levels that exist that are created to allow you to voice your concern concerning any issues associated with the assessment value. First of all, the first level is to get the data accurate, to make sure things are correct, that we've got the right number of bedrooms, square footage, etc., condition of the property. That all starts at the assessor's office. That's the first level. Once that is all set and you still disagree with the valuation of your property, then you have access to the Board of Assessment Appeals, which is an independent board. It is not made up of city staff. The city staff has to, by statute, remain independent of this Board of Assessment Appeals. And who makes up the Board of Assessment Appeals is your fellow citizens. You have a chance to plead your case to your fellow citizens, and they will make a resolution that is binding to the city. If you still disagree with that valuation, then you have access to another level, the 3rd level, and that is the court system. You have access to the court to plead your case before a court and a judge, and that I must make you aware that is at your expense, but that is still a 3rd level available to you regarding any issues you have with the assessment. The final thing I want to point out is something I started out with at the very beginning, and I just wanted to remind people that what drives your taxes is the budget. The evaluation, the mill rate, etc., is all a function, a sub-function of that budget. So with that, I'll ask Melinda, do you have anything that you'd like to add in conclusion?
So what I'd like to add about the taxes and the tax bill. When you get your tax bill for July 1st of this year, you should look and make sure that the assessment on that bill reflects the notice that you got in January and or February this year. That assessment times your mill rate for your district will ultimately be your tax amount due. So just verify that your assessment matches what you've received. And if you do have questions, you can certainly reach out to our office. Also, one thing I wanted to add was the personal property portion of the grand list, business personal property. It did decline a little bit this year, but we also see that based on the projected mill rate, they will have an 8 mil reduction. So for every $1,000 in value of equipment they have, they'll get an $8 reduction. So hopefully this overall reduction in tax due will allow the businesses to expand or reinvest into the growth of their business here in the community, and maybe even attract new businesses, seeing that our mill rate is very comparable now to our neighbors.
Kevin, do you have anything to add in conclusion?
No, I'm good.
Great. All right. Thank you very much. And I appreciate you folks taking the time and watching this all the way through. Have a good day.